Hey everybody, and welcome to this special on the new moon in Leo on the 23rd of August. So now I'm going to talk about what the new moon represents in astrology and what the spiritual and psychological meanings are, and just the things we can do. So all in all, in astrology, the new moon is a catalyst, it's the pulse, it's the ground that can provide us with personal growth and transformation if we are willing to, take the new beginnings. This energy wants us to do. It wants us to take fresh starts. This could even mean restarting a project or relationship for some of you. And it is also a powerful tool for manifesting your goals and intentions. So it marks the perfect opportunity for self-reflection, intention setting, and as the moon disappears from the view, because we don't really see the moon at the time of the new moon, it invites us to turn inward, reflecting on our desires and whether they align with our goals, our life purpose and our true authentic self. And by actively engaging in the new moon energy, we can promote more clarity and focus within ourselves, and using tools such as journaling, meditation or creating vision boards, which I'll go a bit more in depth about later, can really help us focus. Now remember, tools like journaling, meditation and vision boards, they help us recognize our emotions, let go of our emotions, visually see what we want to manifest, but we have to take practical action, daily steps to bring desired reality into reality. So yeah, we can take this attentional approach, and this allows us to plant the seeds of our goals, nurturing them in the fertile ground of our subconscious mind. So it puts a spotlight on our thoughts. A lot of the time we have these thought patterns that we need to release, and the only way to release them is to take time to work through our psychological, emotional and spiritual traumas. The new moon also symbolises the cyclical nature of life. We have spring, then we have summer, then we have autumn, and then we have winter. So it reminds us that just as the moon phases transition, from new to waxing gibbous and full moon and crescent moon, so can our circumstances and mindset. So we can change. We feel that we can't change because we've been programmed to conform, and a lot of people say, once you pass a certain age, or people like you don't do this or that, but it's up to you what you do with your life. So it encourages us to release our limiting beliefs and past disappointments, making way for personal transformation on all levels by reprogramming our subconscious mind, so we can seek out tools. Speakers like James Allen, Florence Grover-Sin, Marcia Rosenberg, Scott M. Peck, Neville Goddard, even Manly P. Hall, who else, Louise Hay, Tara Brach, Jiddu Krishnamurthy, Anthony DeMello have helped me reprogram my subconscious mind. So you search out the tools that help you, because that's part of it. You can listen to them while you're driving, while you're sleeping. You'd be amazed what the mind picks up, and how slowly doing things to change the negative thoughts in your subconscious mind can help you to let go of what no longer serves you and create a space for new opportunities to enter your life if you take care of it on the mind, body and soul level. So taking care of your mind by working through your traumas, taking care of your body by eating right, sleeping right, eating the right foods for you, and taking care of your soul by engaging in some sort of spiritual practice. And if we're willing to do this, we can empower ourselves to take charge of our growth and align with the universe's natural rhythms. So spiritually, as I said, it wants us to confront innermost thoughts, feelings and goals without the distractions of the external world. So taking some time out, even if it's just 5 minutes to be alone in your car, in your room, in your home, if you live alone, if people are out. And by embracing the stillness and darkness of the new moon, we can dig into our subconscious, uncovering hidden truths and recognize desires. And through this self-reflection, we can also uncover ways to face our hidden truths, use our hidden talents, and to meet our unrecognized repressed desires. It serves as a pathway to understanding our soul's purpose and aligning our life with it. And as we increase our connection to our inner wisdom, practices such as lighting candles, intention setting ceremonies, and even guided visualizations or energy clearing rituals can help facilitate and support you gain a deeper sense of self-awareness on your spiritual journey. And as you honour this sacred time, you may find that the new moon not only illuminates your aspirations but also reveals the obstacles that get in the way of your growth. And a lot of the time we are the ones, our mindset, our unwillingness to let go, our need to stay in our comfort zones are often the big reasons we don't live the lives we want, or the toxic ways we relate to ourselves and others, or the toxic ways we allow other people to relate to us. And again, this is not about victim blaming or anything like that. A lot of the time we can get in these coercive relationships and situationships that we can find it hard to get out with, but by reaching out to maybe organisations that can help you, and I know they're limited, but by really making a plan, especially if you are in a coercive relationship, and make sure you put it in a safe space on how you can get out of the circumstances you are in that is stopping you from being empowered. So ultimately, the new moon is about, it's new, but it's also dark, and darkness is not something we normally, put together with, newness, but it wants us to embrace the duality and create a sense of balance within ourselves between our strengths and weaknesses, light and dark, and to try and build some more self-worth, confidence and clarity into our lives, or to continue to build it if you're already working on that. So ultimately it's a sacred time of renewal where we can develop, cultivate more self-awareness, love, forgiveness, acceptance, and create a profound connection to the universe and our spirit, our higher consciousness. Talking more about the esoteric, the mundane interpretations of the new moon, it wants us to, reflect on what we wish to cultivate in our life, write down specific goals and desires, and, create a tangible reminder of your intentions, reinforcing your commitment to pursuing them as the moon waxes through its stages, encourages us to release the past and let go of habits that no longer serve you. And this process of decluttering your emotional, spiritual and psychological baggage can create space for you to have more renewed passion about the life that you're living, or the life you want to create for yourself. So, choose a ritual that resonates with you and take some time out for quiet reflection, and create an environment, that's right, productive for you to be able to bring more practicality and stability into your life. More about the esoteric meanings. Symbolically, it wants us to connect with our inner self and the universe, your higher power, whatever you call it, using visualization or intuitive readings from others or from yourself, and you're just sitting there with yourself and allowing yourself to access hidden knowledge and guidance that enriches your spiritual journey. And as the new moon represents on the esoteric level the darkness of the womb a lot of us were born in a womb. It invites us to explore the depths of our psyche, creating self-discovery and inner wisdom. You can use tools such as tarot cards, crystals or astrology to enhance your understanding of this phase, and you may consider selecting a specific tarot card or any other card that resonates with your intentions, or use crystals that align with new beginnings like clear quartz, which I can recommend, or moonstone. And it just wants us to take these moments of quiet reflection to listen to our intuition and uncover insights that may have previously eluded you, you may have ignored or you may have not been able to grasp before. So by deepening your spiritual practice in this way, you can align yourself with the natural rhythms of the cosmos, and ultimately it wants you to engage in things that can help you and connect with yourselves. So any form of meditation such as mindfulness, breath work, mantra can help you, center your thoughts and emotions. Also, lighting a candle or using incense to purify your area, allowing the ambience to support your focus. You can write your intentions on paper and express them clearly and positively, and this act not only nullifies your desires but also reinforces your commitment to manifest them in coming weeks. So by visualizing the energy of the new moon and see it enveloping you, surrounding you, protecting you, comforting you, and allowing you to have more motivation. And some of you may choose to repeat affirmations that align with your intentions, but remember, you need to also put practical actions into any tool that you are using. It's not just about visualizing or affirming, it's about, creating a life, changing your life habits so you can provide the right ground for these things to manifest, and by engaging in mindful rituals you can transform your life as you start not only this new journey but a new phase of your life if you wish so. So that's the end of looking at what the new moon means from all angles. So this new moon in Leo is a creative awakening and karmic leadership. That's the main theme. So it brings dramatic potential and transformative energy. And there's a lot of planets in retrograde, which I'm going to talk about, that's really, helping this new moon dance in Leo. We also have a yod, the finger of God, during this new moon, and I'm going to explain what this means, but ultimately it's asking us to rewrite the script of our lives, the narrative that we tell ourselves and others from the inside out. So in terms of personal transformation, the universe is serving up a proper theoretical dramatic masterpiece. Think Black Mirror meets Nine Perfect Strangers, something like that, or Severance meets Coronation Street. So it wants us to be more authentic and creative in our expression and spiritual leadership. It brings creative energy to an absolute crescendo, a peak, and regardless of the external pressures and the negative things that's going on in our life, because life will always be lifing, right? That may be demanding immediate results from us. It's reminding us that there's always space to transform and to celebrate what we have, even though we may not be where we want to be yet. So this new moon's secrets lies in shedding, letting go of things that restrict us. So whether this is toxic relationships, thought patterns, habits, right? And it wants us to allow organic growth. We're not paying for ads here. We're not trying to game the algorithm. We're just trying to go with the flow. And it wants us to sort of bend, conventional boundaries, what people say we should do, right? And trust the process despite any logical reservations. And, we may realize, when we get rationality and logic out of the way, that intuition guided us perfectly. So this doesn't mean abandoning logic and wisdom entirely. Rather it means acknowledging when unexpected opportunities come up and positioning ourselves strategically to use the energy of the new moon in Leo. So now I'm just going to break down everything that's happening. So as I said, we've got the new moon in Leo with a yod. It's exact at 7:07 GMT time. The energetic frequencies, of course, it's a fire. Fixed fire element energy, what wants us to really work with our creative expression, karmic restructuring, stepping up into our authority and self-empowerment, It's in the 7th degree of Leo, and we have the yod between the moon, the sun, Saturn and Pluto, and we also have got the moon making a square to Uranus and a semi-square to Jupiter, which I'll talk about in more depth in a while. So the 7th degree of Leo, the Sabian symbol for that is constellations in the sky, and we've got Saturn, Neptune and Pluto all in retrograde, and it rules the left coronary vein, so the vein in our heart, right? And this new moon is an activation portal for authentic creative leadership and karmic life purpose alignment. So yeah, I'm going to tell you what that all means in depth. So this new moon on the 23rd of August is anything but ordinary. So let's think that you're standing on the stage and the spotlight is directly on you, but instead of performing someone else's play, you're being asked to write your own script entirely, your own play, your own Black Mirror, or I don't know, your favourite TV show, stepping into main character energy. The new moon energy is, it can be exciting but terrifying at the same time, taking that risk to be authentically yourself. But the meaning is crystal clear when we examine Sabian symbol of the 7th degree of Leo, which is the constellations in the sky. And, the universe cannot be any clearer than its intentions. It wants us to step up. So this isn't about earthly day-to-day drama or surface level creativity. We're talking about aligning with our astrological blueprint, our soul's true navigation system, and it's like the universe has handed us a spiritual map and said, right then, time to remember who we actually are. And what makes this new moon in Leo really fascinating, as I said, is the yod, which we call the finger of God in astrology, and it's directly pointing at our sun and moon. And with Saturn in Pisces and Pluto in Capricorn forming the base, the hands of this astrological arrow, we're being asked to integrate serious spiritual restructuring, change, which is represented by Saturn being in Pisces, right? With deep-seated transformation of our life foundations, routines, which is represented by Pluto in Capricorn. So yeah, it's not comfortable, but it's absolutely necessary for new moon manifestation. So it wants us to really tap into our courage, taking a risk on ourselves, being authentic, and our natural leadership skill. Even if you think, I'm not a leader, I believe we've all, got that in us. And it doesn't mean that some people be able to lead 5 people, some people a million, but we all have got that in us where we can, some of us, we just need to lead ourselves, right? So it wants us to step into our own power, not in the egotistical, fake confidence way, but the genuine heart-centered authority that comes from knowing your worth, finding your worth and living your worth, not that dramatic, look at at me, I'm the best, what Leo can be like. On the highest level, Leo energy is about being, self-sovereign, being empowered. And because you are empowered, you can empower other people, rather when we're using Leo energy in a negative way, we take other people's power away to feel powerful. So it's asking us to step into our power, and the trying to Chiron shows that we're given a chance, to heal our deepest wounds around self-expression and creativity. And we have to do this in order to properly use the energy of this new moon in Leo. And remember, all my, every astrology thing I do is all about how can we use the energies in the sky to empower us, right? So the challenges of the new moon in Leo, the square to Uranus and the midheaven, so that this transformation may not be neat and tidy, straightforward for some of you. Expect some disruption in your career path or public image, gossiping, people doing too much, you may be doing too much, seeking external validation when this new moon wants us to look within. We've got quite a few quinquats aspects, and these are, making quinquages to Saturn, Neptune and Pluto, and this shows that we may need to make a lot of adjustments and changes, and fine-tuning will be required because, obstacles and life is always life, and as I said earlier, so we may feel like we may need to constantly change, recalibrate our approach to the new moon energy, but ultimately if we do this, it will be worth it in the long run. So ultimately it's about manifestation, focusing on creative projects that authentically express your soul's purpose. This isn't the time for half-hearted attempts or playing it safe. The universe is literally asking you to dream bigger and more authentically than you ever have before during this new moon in Leo. And rituals should include creating a vision board using images that represent your highest creative potential, writing a letter to your future self describing the creative legacy you want to leave, and lighting gold or orange candles while connecting with your heart's true desires. And the new moon in Leo meditation practices, the best ones are visualizing yourself as a constellation in the night sky, unique, brilliant and perfectly positioned in the astrological dance. So it can be like the constellation of Aries, Pisces or Leo or whatever, or make your own one. Imagination is key to getting you in touch with your higher self, right? So in terms of affirmations, you can use I trust my inner creative genius and allow it to guide my path forward. My authentic self-expression serves the highest good of all, and I'm worthy of the spotlight when I sign my truth. So in terms of the energies involved, of course, we've got the sun in Leo. So this is raising with creative fire and self-confidence, encourages us to step into our natural leadership abilities, and it's the energy of the generous king or queen who rules through love and inspiration rather than force, and this perfectly symbolizes the new moon in Leo meaning. And we've got the moon that's in Leo as well, so this resonates with our emotional need for recognition, creative expression and heart-centered connection. And this lunar energy wants us to feel special, appreciated and free to express our unique gifts without apology, which is central to understanding how, this energy affects us on the emotional level, especially when it comes to emotional healing. And the Jupiter semi-square as the element of expansion, growth and optimism to this new moon in Leo. Although it can make us feel restless and impatient, it's pushing us to think bigger and reach further than what feels comfortable, and it supports the new moon in Leo manifestation process. And the yard, giving us that focal point on our destiny, and it's telling us to pay attention to the things that we need for our soul, our higher consciousness to grow. And the energy can feel intense, but it's unavoidable. It's like the universe is giving us a chance to course correct now. So we're going down into, the last 3 months or so of the year. It's asking us, what goals did you make in January? You may think, I'll put it off to next year, but no, start working towards those new year goals now. The time is now. And Leo's 5th house, it's creative energy, it's our romance, right? It's our inner child, so it's wanting us to really focus on creativity, and especially in terms of getting creative about managing our emotional, psychological and spiritual needs. So now I'm going to talk about the aspects that the moon and the sun are making at the time of this new moon in deeper and more deeply. Yeah, that's the one. So we've got the moon and the sun making a semi-square to Jupiter, and this can bring a sort of restless optimism because, Jupiter wants to always expand everything it touches, but the semi-square creates a bit of friction for us, making the changes that we need to. So if we think of it as a kind of creative tension where we may feel like our dreams are too big or too courageous, bold, but that's exactly the point of this new moon in Leo energy. So it can increase our confidence and manifestation work, and it encourages bold goal setting, but challenging, it can create overconfidence or unrealistic expectations. So what we need to do to practically use this energy is to set one impossible dream alongside more practical goals, so be practical with most of the goals you set, but think about one thing that you think is impossible, or people say, or you have to do a lot of work to achieve, and start making those small daily steps to get there, because remember, it's all about the small daily steps. The moon and the sun makes a quincunx to Saturn, so this is asking for some change between our creative self-expression, which is represented by Leo, and our spiritual discipline, which is represented by Saturn in Pisces. So it's about reviewing old patterns of self-limitation, asking us to restructure them completely through the new moon in Leo work. Positively, it provides spiritual discipline to support the new moon in Leo creative manifestation. Challengingly, so practically, what it wants us to do in order to make the doubt less and giving us the ability to achieve our dreams is to include structured spiritual practices in our new moon in Leo manifestation routine. So whether this be yoga, tai chi, meditation, whether it's mantra meditation, visualization meditation, stillness or music, whatever is practically and structured for you. So the sun and the moon make a square to Uranus, and as you know in astrology, Uranus is the astrological disruptor, and it's square to the new moon in Leo, so that your manifestation process may not unfold as expected. This isn't necessarily negative, as Uranus, brings that breakthrough energy and innovative, new solutions to our problems. So it can bring, sudden insights and breakthrough moments, but challengingly, it can add to the unpredictable circumstances or sudden changes. So it's important to stay flexible with your plans, have a plan B as well as a plan A, maybe a plan C for some of you, go with the flow. Especially when you're setting your goals and deadlines and the methods you're going to use to get there, be flexible in changing your approach, So we've got the sun and the moon making a quincunx to Neptune retrograde. So with Neptune retrograde creating this quincunx, our Leo confidence, the Leo confidence energy is getting a spiritual reality check. This aspect is like having a cosmic whisper saying, hold on, is this ego driven? Because as I said, we have to watch out for that ego, right? Or soul driven? Is it coming from your higher consciousness? Whatever it is you're saying or doing. And the 1.11 all means there's no escaping this adjustment, and our creative expression and leadership style need to align with higher spiritual principles. And I have noticed in my experience that when Neptune quincunxes during a Leo new moon, this often brings moments where your plans suddenly feel hollow unless they serve something greater than yourself. There's a bigger purpose to them. Some of you can expect intuitive downloads, thoughts, ideas about how to lead with genuine compassion rather than just charisma, confidence, ignorance, lies, ego. And then we've got the Pluto double quinquets between the Sun and the Moon, and then this is affecting that 1.33 orb, giving us, the power to transform, causing power pressure, and the Leo energy is being forced to evolve beyond surface level leadership into authentic transformation. So it's demanding us to examine whether our creative expression and leadership serves genuine empowerment or just ego gratification. And Pluto quinquences often bring up buried power dynamics or reveal where we've been giving our power away. And during this new moon, expect situations that force you to claim your authority in completely new ways. And we also have the Sun making a trine to Chiron, and although it's creating, adding to the need to adjustment, the pressure that brings, the pressure it brings for us needing to change, this is what this new moon really wants us to do, especially in the way that we take ownership for the stories that play out in our day-to-day life, and the way we use our ego, and the way we empower ourselves and empower others, or allow ourselves to be disempowered or disempower others. So it offers us healing through authentic self-expression, showing that healing unfolds gradually, building confidence as you're open to your unique gifts. And this energy brings opportunity to heal ourselves and others through creative expression or leadership, and become the source of our authentic power. Sun and the Moon makes a square to the midheaven. So as I said earlier, it adds to the tension around our public image and career direction. Although it's a 4.54 separating orb, this showing that we're moving away from old professional patterns. There's still going to be a lot of friction. People don't like change. We don't like change as individuals. We love staying in our comfort zone, right? So this energy wants us to account for how our authentic self-expression might challenge existing professional routines and systems. So it's showing, yes, you may want to change and people may not like it, but take accountability for that, stand up for yourself, respect other people's boundaries, do not avoid change just because it's going to bring some friction, right? So ultimately, these aspects are supporting us to be authentically ourselves, making sure that we also focus on the greater good, so we take into account other people's needs and boundaries as well, and helping others heal by using their unique gifts. Yes, use your unique gifts, be who you are, but help others where you can to do the same. And the quinquences demand adjustment, the trines bring healing, and the square creates the necessary tension, the challenges in our day-to-day life that can lead to growth. So ultimately, it's supporting, and it's the right time for leaders to evolve and go beyond ego into authentic service. So as I said, we've got the yard between the Moon, Sun, Saturn and Pluto. So a transiting yard is also known as the finger of God in astrology, and this aspect is formed when two planets are sextile, so that's 60 degrees apart, and both of these planets make a quinquets, which is 150 degrees to a third planet. So two planets sextile, both of those planets make a quinquets to another third planet, or planets if that third planet is conjunct to another planet. So this creates a narrow egg-elongated triangle shape in the transiting chart. And a transiting yard can increase our awareness of our purpose or calling. It can give us opportunities for growth and transformation, and it's a potent energy that really allows us to break free from old patterns that no longer serve you, and or habits, so it can act as a cosmic push towards self-discovery and personal development, and this can lead to a deeper understanding of your true path in life. It can bring about unexpected blessings or connections that push you towards your goals. but negatively, it can sometimes be overwhelming energy, confusing to understand all the push and pulls, because, the Queen Quartz is a struggle, so you push and pull. You've got two planets that are like, yeah, we love each other, and then they make this Queen Quartz to the third planet, and they're not loving each other as much anymore, so it requires us to confront deep-seated fears and insecurities, and it can be challenging and emotionally draining. It can also, as I said, be confusing, leading to uncertainty and doubt about our choices and which direction should we go, and all of that as well. And also, the challenges triggered by a transiting yod can disrupt our existing routines and our relationships, and it can just cause internal turbulence and changes. And it's essential to approach this energy with an open mind and a willingness to embrace change as resisting transformation, whatever it is that comes up, at the time of a transiting yod, whatever comes to your attention. You may be like, oh no, I don't want to change, but resisting the change can just lead to extended feelings of discomfort and stagnation, just staying in the same old routine. So the yod's like, okay, I know this thing has been comforting, or these things, and maybe you needed these things at one stage in your life, but now it's time to let go and move on to something new. So yeah, and this is creating a sense of destiny and unavoidable spiritual growth, so it's going to force us to grow, right? And we've got Saturn and Pluto both in retrograde, so it's all about releasing old structures, routines and spiritual and other patterns that no longer serve us or serve our highest creative expression, right? So positively, it provides powerful astrological support for life-changing transformation during the new moon in Leo, but it can add to us feeling overwhelmed because things can just seem fainted, like we've got no control, and sometimes we don't like that, right? So we have to try and be open and surrender to the process and trust that the universe is restructuring our life for our highest good. So now I'm going to talk about the Sabian symbols in more depth that's affecting this new moon in Leo. So we've got the moon and the sun in the 7th degree of Leo. The Sabian symbology, as I said, are constellations in the sky, and it rules the left coronary vein, and it reminds us ultimately that our heart's astrological navigation guidance system is getting a proper tune up at this time. So it's giving us divine guidance, astrological order, and reminding us of our connection to universal patterns that guide our earthly journey, and that's ultimately what this energy is doing, right? So Jung would see this as the collective unconscious manifesting through archetype star patterns, showing us our place in the greater astrological story, life story, earth story. So it gives us that support, as I said earlier, for creative self-expression, alignment with the universe, and it gives us that spiritual higher consciousness navigation for our life purpose. But negatively, it can lead to us feeling overwhelmed by astrological responsibility, getting lost in spiritual concepts without, practically using them, and over identifying with being special or chosen. So ultimately, it's asking us to manifest from a place of astrological spiritual alignment rather than ego-driven desires, on the esoteric occult level. It's connecting us to the stellar wisdom, the Akashic records, the place where we can gain things in our dreams, or just by talking to someone, listening to a podcast or anything, where we get that aha moment. I know that I used to be, single in the past life, or I know this about myself from a past life, so I need to work on this in this life, and stuff like that. It gives us the power to understand karmic patterns, celestial magic and star consciousness. Negatively, it can add to us spiritual bypassing, like being, I don't need to take care of the day-to-day practicalities of life, because, you know, it's all just going to be given to me by a divine power, which is true, but we also have to do the work of, you know, doing a daily practical task to make our dreams reality. We can have obsession with astrological significance and neglecting, you know, the practical steps that we need to take to manifest our dream life into reality. So we can use star meditation, constellation visualization, as I said earlier, in order to, you know, focus on the new moon in Leo manifestation. In terms of our emotional health, it promotes us getting clarity through spiritual beliefs, helping us process feelings through astrological understanding. On the spiritual health level, it increases our connection to divine guidance and strengthens our faith in universal support. It helps us develop astrological consciousness. And the left coronary vein, in terms of our physical health, wants us to work on heart circulation, doing the things that we need to do, that, you know, whether it be cardio, walking, running, jumping, doing weights, you know, tai chi, yoga, pilates, and also focusing on heart opening practices like meditations to help you get in touch with your inner feelings and the vibration of love. Psychologically, it helps us develop a sense of meaning and purpose, and helps us integrate spiritual insights with daily life and promotes psychological wholeness. So we can create a constellation map of our life goals, meditate under the stars as well, you know, in terms of our well-being. If we spend some time looking at the stars, studying astronomy or astrology, aligning with daily rhythms, you know, looking after our sleep, eating and fun and work patterns, supporting our heart health through gentle exercises, eating healthy foods like leafy greens and berries. It wants us to release old emotional patterns that block heart energy, you know, so looking after our emotional circulation by dealing with our feelings, connecting with our shadow, seeing our strengths and weaknesses, using our personal creativity and to help us heal, and trust in timing and the guidance that we receive through synchronicities as well. Jupiter is in the 23rd degree of Gemini, and the Sabian symbology is 3 fledglings, 3 birds in a nest high in the tree. This Sabian symbol rules the head of the humerus, and it's reminding us that our communication wings are ready to take flight from a secure foundation. So it reminds us of our early stage development, so focusing on the past experiences, what we need to still heal now in order to gain our independence as well. It wants us to be open to new ideas, launching new communication or creative projects as well. It's good to do that under this new moon, working with others, protecting our environment for growth, so thinking about the daily habits and relationships that may drain us or what we need to change. It represents and supports the development of intellectual and communication skills. So positively, you know, it's good for networking with others, sharing new ideas, working in a team with a partner or friend or family member to manifest, working on your intellectual growth. But negatively, we can have an over-dependence on other people's opinions, fear of launching ourselves independently, you know, going out on our own, empowering ourselves, and we can just get stuck in the preparation phase without actually taking action as well. Esoterically, it wants us to share spiritual teachings with others and work on collective consciousness development, and maybe just thinking about what you're going to say as well, so incubating it, pondering it, reflecting on it before you say it. Negatively, it can make us spiritually immature. We can share information prematurely without really understanding it. It can lead to spiritual codependence. So we should work with the element of magic and communication spells and group manifestation practices to help us. In terms of our emotional health, it promotes emotional security through communication and connection with people who are like-minded, who have the same vibe of us, you know. helps us develop a spiritual community and share learning experiences with others. And the head of the humerus affects our shoulder and arm mobility in our bodies, so doing exercises to help with our upper body flexibility and strength. Psychologically, it can help us build confidence through collaborative learning and mutual support systems. We can create manifestation groups, practice communication-based rituals, work with bird symbolism, as well as join online learning communities or in-person learning communities, practice public speaking in terms of looking after our body. We could stretch our shoulders and arms daily, strengthen our upper body through swimming or resistance exercises, massage our shoulder area. Ultimately, Jupiter here is, the stretching of our shoulders and upper body is encouraging us to reach out and be open to new opportunities, expand our communication, our thought processes, thinking about the thoughts we allow to think each day, the relationships that we have, and also, sharing ideas with others and learning from collective wisdom as well. So we've got Saturn at the 7th degree of Pisces and Neptune's in the 8th degree, but I'll talk about that in a while. So the Sabian symbology is a cross line and rocks. It rules the right talus, and it's reminding us of our spiritual foundation and that we need to ground ourselves, especially through life's challenges, rocky terrain, So it asks us to review our spiritual routines and the way we sacrifice ourselves. It wants us to think about the things we may need to give up, the daily habits such as toxic relationships, toxic thoughts, in order to lean more into our spiritual sacrifice, testing of faith, finding sacred meaning through difficult circumstances, and endurance, resilience through life's trials, getting back up after each fall and failure. Psychologically, it reminds us of the integration of spiritual something into wisdom and the transformation of victimhood into meaningful sacrifice. So it wants us to connect spiritually and make that sacred throughout life's difficulties, leaning into the wisdom that we can gain through life's challenges. It can negatively add to us feeling like victims and sacrificing ourselves without purpose and being spiritually rigid, inflexible, and this can block the new moon in Leo's manifestation flow, and this retrograde energy asks us to review and rethink our spiritual beliefs, especially those that may be limiting us from manifesting new in our life. So in terms of the esoteric hidden meanings, it reminds us of the sacred geometry of suffering and transcendence, the alchemical transformation through spiritual trials that can happen, the Christ consciousness development, as in tuning ourselves to love, because Leo's 5th house, romantic love, but the higher of that is romantic self-love or universal love. But negatively, it can lead to spiritual egotism, mechanism, narcissism, and addiction to suffering and the misuse of sacred symbols for personal gain. We should work with sacred symbols in an ethical way, practice spiritual discipline, and engage in meaningful sacrifice to work with this Saturn Sabian symbol, the 7th degree, a cross laying on rocks, so giving up our toxic relationships and habits to bring in new. In terms of our emotional health, it wants us to process emotional pain through spiritual understanding, building on our emotional staying power, resilience, strength. In terms of our spiritual health, it deepens our faith through testing, and it helps us become more spiritually mature. In terms of physical health, it rules our right talus, and this helps us with our ankle stability. So it wants us to focus on balance, grounding exercises and foot care, integrating suffering into meaningful stories, and developing endurance during the new moon in Leo. We can create a sacred space for spiritual discipline, practice meditation on sacred symbols, engage in meaningful charitable work, develop spiritual practices that provide structure, find meaning in current challenges during the new moon in Leo. Ultimately, it wants us to strengthen our ankles through balance exercises, wear supportive footwear, practice grounding exercise by being barefoot, walking as well. It wants us to find, a stable spiritual foundation, because our ankles support our feet and our whole legs. They may be the tiniest part of our legs in terms of our, thighs and the rest of our legs, but we need ankle strength for stability, So ultimately, we need to think about our spiritual practices and creative expression and what kind of strength and manifestation power we can gain through spiritual discipline and the meaningful sacrifice of our ego desires. So whether that be our need to overindulge in intoxicating relationships, substances, foods and stuff like that, and remembering to bring balance into our life. Uranus is in the 8th degree of Taurus, and the Sabian symbol is a sleigh without snow and rules the cervical nerves, and ultimately it's telling us that our innovative spirit is learning to adapt to change, to be flexible when conditions are not ideal. So ultimately it wants us to level up to like a more fit, stable routine in our life. It wants us to be more resourceful in the way we face life's challenges, and reminds us of innovation, newness, new ideas, problem solving born from necessity. Sometimes we're forced into a situation and we've got no choice but to level up, to change, to adapt, to be flexible when we're not in our ideal circumstances, So in terms of the psychological interpretation, it wants us to be flexible with our creativity when expected resources are not available, and find new ways forward. So being resourceful, as I said, when facing life's obstacles and challenges, and changing, adapting to circumstances that we don't like, instead of saying, well, I don't like the circumstances, I'm not going to try. Negatively, it can add to the frustration we can feel when things don't go to plan, and forcing inappropriate situations to work, and lack of preparation. It wants us to be innovative in our manifestation, especially when our usual methods and our comfort zone things and habits are not working. In terms of the esoteric meaning, it wants us to find new paths when traditional ones are blocked, making us aware of divine creativity through limitation, and seeing the power of limitation for us to be, to think of higher solutions. How can we do this even though this obstacle's here? And that's what divine creation is all about. Negatively, it can lead to spiritual impatience, forcing manifestation without proper timing, bypassing the necessary spiritual preparation. It's important to experiment with new ideas, new beliefs, new routines, and adapt to rituals that, you can adapt them. Like meditation, you may be used to do mantra meditation, but you may be in a space when that's not working. So adapt to new rituals that are more suited to your current circumstances. In terms of your emotional health, it wants you to develop more emotional flexibility and resilience when plans change unexpectedly. It wants us to develop and create more trust in divine timing, which is the main theme of this new moon in Leo, right? Physically, it wants us to look after the cervical nerves, which are important and support our neck and head function. So focus on neck stretches, flexibility, having the right posture, walking and sitting right, and reducing stress. Psychologically, it helps us to be more psychologically and mentally flexible, and be open to creative problem solving, and just to be more flexible in our daily routines as well, and develop multiple approaches to reaching our goals. So as I said, it's important to focus on stress management, improving your posture, and Uranus's disruptive energy can cause tension, so it's important to practice relaxation techniques and to allow ourselves to find new ways to express ourselves when conditions are not perfect, and be open to the opportunities that the universe provides us for change and flexibility, even though they may come in unexpected ways. Neptune's in the 8th degree of Pisces, and the Sabian symbol is a girl blowing a bugle, and it rules the left talus. It reminds us that our spiritual call is ready to be heard, even if our foundation feels steady. So a lot of these aspects are reminding us life isn't ideal. It's never going to be ideal, but that doesn't mean we can't go on and be us. And Neptune's in retrograde in its home sign Pisces, right? So it's bringing our attention to clear communication, spiritual awakening and divine calling, awakening ourselves and others to a higher truth, and it's an innocent but powerful spiritual expression. Psychologically, it reminds us of having that pure spiritual expression, cutting through illusion, awakening consciousness through simple truth, and not, elaborate truths like you have to sit in this position in order to be spiritual, or meditate in this way, or have these tarot cards, or do this practice 24 hours a day, or whatever. It's about finding your own path and promoting the message that, everyone's path to spiritual awakening is different, but that doesn't mean that it's any less valid. There's many ways to awaken spiritually, and we should tailor that to our own personal expression rather than thinking we have to follow a certain book or person in order to be spiritual, in touch with the divine, So positively, it gives us access to clear spiritual guidance and inspirational manifestation, especially through our work and rituals, and it allows us to awaken ourselves and others through being authentic in our expression. But negatively, we can be spiritually naive, immature. We can have unrealistic manifestation expectations, expecting everything to come at once, or we can confuse spiritual fantasy with divine guidance, So it wants us to review our spiritual communication and refine, change our ability and the ways we share divine inspiration and think about it, Positively, it can, allow us to be spiritually awakened through sound and vision. Neptune rules like the entertainments and music, vibration, what we see, what we hear, angelic, higher communication, divine messenger energy. But negatively, it can lead to false spiritual messages, fake news, psychic delusion, and misinterpreting spiritual signals. So it's important, this energy wants us to work with sound healing, mantras and vibrational manifestation techniques, visualization, subtle thinking, just sitting in silence. In terms of our emotional health, it wants us to clear our emotional confusion through spiritual clarity and process emotions with, through divine connection. It helps us do that. Spiritually increases our spiritual communication with the divine and purifies spiritual beliefs perception. In terms of the left talus, again, it wants us to focus on balance work, looking after our ankles. Psychologically, it wants us to integrate spiritual insights with practical reality. Does this belief work in real life? That's the test. If something is valid, you should be able to live it and be it, and be able to explain it in a practical way, right? And develop clear spiritual communication. So all types of sound, whether it's singing, dancing, screaming, can help with your manifestation work, and trust in your innocent spiritual insights own, because something may not be profound or deep. Simple truths are often the best truth, and it wants us to express ourselves spiritually without ego contamination. In terms of looking after our body, taking walks in nature, once again, anything that grounds you and helps you support your left and your right ankles, and just be open to divine support. Pluto is in the 8th degree of Capricorn. The symbols is birds in the house singing happily. So a lot of bird imagery throughout this Sabian symbology this week, right? Well, this month. And this falls the limp vessels of the knee, and it wants us again to create joy and happiness even in confined circumstances, circumstances that are not ideal or not perfect, are maybe challenging. So it wants us to find happiness within our limitations, bring in natural joy into structured, traditional, authoritative environments, and work on transformation, on change that preserves our spiritual beliefs, and it wants us to integrate our more gut feeling, wild, free, natural side within civilized, authoritative, governmental, rigid institution, corporate environments, while maintaining our authentic self, especially in our social relationships and environments as well. So ultimately it wants us to find freedom in commitment and committing to our creativity and empowering ourselves and stepping up into that leadership, which is the ultimate message of this new moon, right? But negatively we can feel caged or trapped or compromise our authenticity for security, getting in the way, suppressing our natural authentic expression. Ultimately it's asking us to rethink, review, reflect on how we can maintain joy, happiness and authenticity while building solid foundations, while doing that hard work. Esoterically, our soul is singing its truth within earthly incarnation. It's allowing us to express divine joy through our bodies, through our daily habits. Negatively, it can lead to spiritual imprisonment, suppressing our soul or authenticity for material gain and losing connection to the divine. So it wants us to work with manifestation that honors both our freedom and responsibility. In terms of our emotional health, it wants us to maintain our emotional joy while dealing with changes and process change with optimism. Spiritually, it wants us to integrate spiritual freedom with our earthly day-to-day responsibilities, and this can maintain our divine connection even though we have to deal with work and other routines and commitments and responsibilities. It wants us to look after the lymph vessels of our knees, so things that can help drain our lymph nodes, so drinking the right beverages, waters, drinks, eating the right foods, rebounding, jumping, anything that supports draining lymphs, right? And working on our flexibility and authentic expression, especially our psychological flexibility, and balance any need for security with being ourselves, being authentic, right? So it wants us to be responsible in our goal setting, focus on being authentic and creating routines to do so, doing things that strengthen our knee in terms of our body care, dry brushing, system movement, like gentle movement, releasing old patterns that block our joy, our happiness, being open to preserving what needs to be preserved in terms of our routine, but adding to our routine and doing the things that bring us genuine happiness. Okay, so now I'm just going to talk about the karmic meanings. So it wants us to, review things, as I said, and the universe is basically saying, right then, time to remember who you actually are and who you actually came here to be, what you incarnated to be. And the new moon in Leo is opening us to receive astrological recognition gracefully, especially when you've been working on your personal development for a while, and you may have won your wisdom in a hard way, overcoming challenges, and now you can help others do so. So as I said, creating that YouTube, TikTok, podcast, whatever, not thinking, oh, there's a million people doing it already. No one's doing it how you can do it. It's giving you an astrological permission slip to step into your authentic creative power and leadership. Past lives where you may have been suppressed, forced not to speak, silenced, or forced to hide your gifts, can be healed through this new moon in Leo activation. Past life memories that could come up may include experiences of creative or artistic leadership, spiritual teaching, or situations where your creativity was tested and proved. Dreams may feature you being involved in rituals, ceremonies, performances, musical acting, stuff like that. Scenes of being acknowledged for your creative gifts. And remember, these aren't random memories, they're soul reminders reminders of your innate, inbuilt, inborn capacity for creative leadership, and the collective karma involves humanity's relationship with authentic creative expression and heart-centered leadership, and the new moon in Leo helps us release patterns where our creativity was, suppressed, repressed, forced not to be expressed, or where authentic power was feared, and it's part of a larger shift towards more genuine, service-based creative leadership that honors both individual expression and collective healing. So in terms of the things that we need to manifest, projects that express our soul's purpose, leadership opportunities that allow us to serve from the heart, recognition for our unique gifts and talents, creative teamwork, collaborations that inspire and uplift others, financial abundance through creative expression, the courage to be seen and heard in our truth, and healing around past creative wounds or suppression, in terms of, rituals that we can set on a deeper level, and an astrological vision board using images that represent our highest creative potential. The imageries of stars, constellations, and anything else. You could write your intentions on gold paper, because that's Leo's colour, right? And place them under the starlight or anywhere else you want to. Daily creative practice, over the next 28 days until the next new moon, even if it's just 15 minutes. The public sharing of your creative work, leadership roles in your community or profession. We can do spiritual practices that connect you to your astrological guidance, heart-opening practices that increase your capacity for joy and happiness. In terms of a vision board, you can focus on images that make your heart sing with recognition rather than just pretty pictures, Include representations of yourself in leadership roles, creative expression, and astrological connection. Don't forget to include symbols of the support and resources you'll need during this new moon in Leo. The key with this new moon in Leo is to manifest from your astrological identity rather than earthly personality. Ask yourself, what would I create if I knew I had the full support of the universe? And then allow it to manifest, in time. I'm just going to talk now how the new moon in Leo influences our relationships. So in family relationships, we may find ourselves taking on more of a leadership role within our families, or confronting old patterns where our creativity wasn't supported. And the retrograde planets show that family karma is up for healing, and it's important to approach this healing with compassion, but don't compromise your authentic self. So in terms of friendship, the Jupiter and Gemini influence brings expansion, growth through community and teamwork. It's a brilliant time to manifest creative friendships or bring more creativity into your existing friendships and be more supportive. But the yard formation can bring some intensity to friendships, because people may not be able to handle your authentic power, and these people may naturally fade away, or you may be the one that can't handle someone else's authentic power right now, and you may choose to leave. In terms of romantic relationships, it brings passion and playfulness into them, but the astrological pressure means that superficial connections won't survive. If you are in a committed relationship, this is a perfect time to manifest more creative teamwork and mutual support in it, especially supporting each other's authentic expression. In terms of dating and new connections, you can be more attracted to people who are part of your soul group or astrological family. Trust your intuitive hits about people. The universe is orchestrating meaningful connections. Just don't get so caught up in the astrological significance that you forget to enjoy the simple pleasure of good company. In terms of self-partner relationship, this can be a big one because the yard is basically asking you to focus on your relationship with yourself and your soul's purpose. Practice mirror work, celebrate your unique gifts, and be honest about where you've been dimming your light. It wants you to work on healing your heart and any problems that you are experiencing right now. In terms of professional relationships, expect some shake-ups in your professional relationships as you step into more authentic power. The Uranus square can bring unexpected changes in work relationships, but trust that these changes are aligning you with people who can support your true mission. And just be open to maybe changing career for some of you as well. Now I'm going to talk about some questions that can help you really reflect on what you need to do during this new moon. So in terms of your creative expression and soul purpose, you can ask, what creative gifts have I been afraid to fully express? And this question is crucial because the new moon in Leo wants us to align with our creative expression and with astrological spiritual higher purpose rather than ego desires, right? So this can help us understand our creative fears. It allows us to step into our authentic power rather than just stay in our ego-driven expression. It wants us to have the courage to start new things, right? In terms of our financial abundance, it wants us to ask, what old beliefs about money and creativity are you ready to release? And this is important because it supports manifesting abundance during the new moon in Leo, and this is what it wants us to do through authentic creative expression rather than compromising our real gifts, you know. In terms of our spiritual leadership and authentic power, it wants us to ask, how can I lead from love rather than ego during this new moon in Leo? And it's important because it wants us to examine how we can use our influence or platform or create one to serve the highest good of the collective while staying true to your authentic self as well. So yeah, these questions can help you just zoom in into what you want to focus on. So now I'm going to talk about the 12 sun, moon and rising signs, giving guidance for each. So Aries, your natural leadership abilities are getting astrological intensification during this new moon in Leo. So it's important to focus on creative projects that inspire others while challenging yourself to collaborate, work with others more. And the yard supports you being pioneering, starting new things, initiating, especially when that focus is on doing it for your soul purpose rather than ego gratification, you know. Taurus, the Uranus square is shaking up your comfort zone around creativity and self-expression. Be open to new approaches to manifestation and don't get stuck in, that's not how I usually do things. Your steady nature provides the grounding for others during this transformative time, you know, this time of change, but also be open to bringing in newness, although change can be hard for you, you know. So Gemini, Jupiter's in your sign, and this brings expansion and growth through communication and learning. It wants you to manifest through teaching, writing or sharing knowledge, and your curiosity and flexibility can help others deal with the astrological changes that are happening. Cancer, the new moon in Leo can feel a bit overwhelming for your sensitive nature, but it's teaching you to shine, using your natural nurturing gifts more boldly, courageously, confidently. Focus on creative expressions of care and emotional healing that reach beyond your usual circle. Leo, this is, you know, your astrological moment. The new moon's happening in your sign with the yard asking you to step fully into your authentic creative leadership ability. Don't hold back. The universe is providing support for your biggest, most heart-centered dreams. Virgo, your practical nature helps ground your astrological new moon energy into touchable, tangible results. Focus on creating systems and routines that support creative manifestation, and your attention to detail can make sure that inspired visions become a practical reality. Libra, the creative collaboration theme of this new moon, perfectly suits your partnership orientated nature. Manifest through beautiful, harmonious, balanced creative projects that bring people together, and your diplomatic skills can help others deal with the intensity of this transformation, but watch out for people pleasing, right? Scorpio, the deep transformation energy of this new moon resonates with your soul. Focus on creative expressions that reveal hidden truths about promoting healing, and your ability to work with shadow material helps others integrate the challenging aspects of growth. Sagittarius, your natural teaching abilities are in focus right now. Share your philosophical insights through creative expression and adventurous manifestation approaches, techniques, methods, and your optimism can help others maintain faith during, times of change. Capricorn, Pluto retrograde in your sign is part of the yod, right? Asking you to restructure your approach to authority and achievement. Focus on building foundations that support authentic creative expression rather than just status or security. Aquarius, your innovative nature helps others adapt to unexpected changes that this new moon in Leo can bring. Focus on creative solutions that serve the collective good while honouring your individual authenticity. Your vision of the future helps ground these astrological energies. Pisces, with both Saturn and Neptune retrograde in your sign as part of the new moon in Leo astrological pattern, you're integrating spiritual wisdom with practical use and life hacks. Focus on creative expression that channel divine inspiration into touchable healing for yourself and others. So in order to use this energy practically, launch creative projects that combine personal passion with service to others. It gives us the power, the constellation 7th degree symbol, and 7 is a very spiritual number in numerology, giving us the potential to inspire and guide ourselves and others. Focus on manifestation work that feels bigger than your personal desires and ego needs. The challenges that come is you trying to force manifestation through willpower alone, rather than, the multiple quincunxes that are telling us that we're gonna need to change and fine tune our plans. So if something doesn't work out, this is a message to change, Be prepared for unexpected plot twists in how your manifestations unfold, how your words and actions may come across, and stay flexible with timing and methods, be open to newness and change and adapting your approach, as I said. In terms of financial lunar magic, it can create abundance through rituals that honour both your creative gifts and practical needs. It supports manifestation through creative expression, but the Capricorn influence requires us to make solid strategic plans, write abundance affirmations on gold paper and burn them in the fire. Focus on attracting relationships that celebrate and support your authentic creative expression. And if current relationships feel threatened by your growth, approach with compassion, but don't dim your light to keep others comfortable. In terms of looking after your health and wellness, looking after your heart health and doing things to open your heart and focus on self-love and forgiveness, heart chakra meditations, activities that bring you joy and confront any physical health concerns, especially to do with your heart, and just take a more of a holistic approach to looking after your wellness right now. In terms of your spiritual development, it's all about, spiritual development through creative expression, developing practices that combine meditation with creativity, perhaps spiritual art, inspired writing or musical expression. As I said, it's a perfect time to birth creative projects that have been, gestating this year or through the new moon, you know, the fledglings ready to fly energy. So you've done the preparation work and now it's time to launch. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Adapt and innovate with what you have available. So ultimately, you know, it's about authentic creative leadership that serves the highest good, aligning with your soul's purpose, because the yard formation is saying, you know, you've got unavoidable appointment with your higher purpose, and it's asking you to integrate years of spiritual learning into creative expression that can inspire and heal others. And it reminds you that you're not an isolated individual that's struggling alone, that you're part of a greater astrological pattern where, you know, each of us contribute to the collective healing. And it reminds you that your creative gifts aren't just your personal talents, you know, they're part of your soul service contract to help, you know, awaken a collective, even if it's just by being yourself. And the challenges that, you know, the squares and quincunxes bring is just telling us that we can't avoid the opportunities to develop spiritual maturity. They're not obstacles. They want us to lean into our authentic leadership and power right now. And if we encounter resistance and limitations, remember that the universe is fine-tuning, you know, making us kind of think about refining and making the necessary changes to our approach to make sure that our manifestations, you know, serve the highest good. And the heart symbology of the left coronary vein is wanting us to rewire and to circulate astrological love and wisdom through our creative expression. And although it may seem overwhelming, but you have to trust that you're being prepared for a level of creative service that your soul has long desired. And the astrological timing of 7/7 on the 23rd creates a portal of spiritual awakening that asks you to step fully into your role as a bridge between astrological wisdom and earthly expression. Don't play small during this powerful new moon in Leo. The universe is asking you to shine as brightly as the stars themselves. So yeah, that's the end of this very in-depth analysis of the new moon in Leo on the 23rd of August. I'm Amani, your karmic astrological life coach. Take care and see you next time.